They thought the railway was safe. They believed steel tracks and TE-33A diesel locomotives were untouchable. But on one August morning, silence broke into fire. A single ambush, 7 small UAVs, unraveled Russia's most vital supply artery. This is the story of patience, precision, and a firestorm that rewrote the tempo of war. Logistics is the bloodstream of any army. With sea routes shredded by naval loitering drones and convoys struck on open highways, Moscow had only one vein left: rail. A single corridor moved the lion's share of fuel south. 30 wagons in a single convoy, carrying roughly 150 metric tons of liquid fuel. 6 wagons of JP-8 jet fuel, 12 of diesel, and a dozen mixed industrial blends. Dependency breeds weakness. Ukraine studied that weakness like a surgeon before the cut. Patience became the deadliest weapon. Day after day, they watched the schedules. Civilian freights cleared before dawn. Military runs followed later. The right train meant the right impact. They marked it, mapped it, and waited until 8:01 on August 19th, the exact minute the Tokmak-Oroyan convoy entered the choke point. One moment of hesitation would have wasted everything. Seeing the unseen, that was the key. Commercial optical satellites and synthetic aperture radar, thermal overlays, GSM tower footprints, and captured locomotive telemetry layered into a living map. Signal intelligence picked up locomotive telemetry and station-level GSM traffic. Even Russian jamming couldn't hide a heat signature or a phone ping. No guesswork. Only cold certainty down to the minute. Then came the choreography. 3 echelons of drones. First, low-signature observers to shadow and mark. Second, the strike wave to initiate ignition. Third, a comms disruption and decoy echelon to jam local radios and prevent coordinated response. A decoy drone intentionally generated electromagnetic interference for roughly 90 seconds, cutting local comms and leaving crews effectively blind. The attack plan wasn't chaos, it was a script. Operators followed it, beat for beat. The strike platform was the Malik V2, sometimes referenced as Malik Viv-2, a lightweight, polymer-bodied loitering munition. Specs cited by analysts: range 210 km, mass 5 klan, dual GNSS guidance, GLONASS plus GPS, AES-128, encrypted data links, and a satellite-based recall algorithm. Its warhead was a low-density initiator, not designed to punch through armor by brute force, but to pierce a tanker shell and ignite volatile vapors with a shock impulse estimated at $9,000 MOS shock velocity. Each drone carried a single one-way attack profile and, after transmitting post-strike thermal data, self-destructed to avoid capture. The convoy rolled, a TE-33A diesel locomotive pushing 30 wagons, cruising at an estimated speed consistent with regional freight timetables. Operators identified a mid-train aviation fuel tanker as the optimum ignition point. At 8:01:22, the first Malak V2 dove into the target. Penetration, internal overpressure, vapor flash. The spark became a storm. Within 7 seconds, adjacent wagons reacted. Vapor clouds detonated in sequence. Flames erupted into 27-meter columns. Heat propagated down the train. Rails softened as temperatures hit and exceeded 620 degrees C locally, then spiked above 750 degrees in the hottest plumes. Concrete sleepers cracked. Trains split into 2 burning sections. Front-end wagons derailed. Rear wagons remained on rails but were engulfed. The whole strike sequence, from first impact to final detonation, lasted approximately 6 minutes and 48 seconds. Before firefighters could marshal, silence spread. An electromagnetic interference blackout. Drones' emissions and deliberate jamming caused a local comms blackout lasting close to 10 minutes. Russian security units protecting the convoy were unable to contact the logistics command, for roughly 12 minutes after the initial blast. For that crucial interval, the front desk had no voice, no warning. Fire crews raced in. Civilian firefighting trucks halted nearly 1 kilometer out, blocked by radiant heat. Only specialized military fire control vehicles could approach about an hour after the strike. By then, dozens of wagons had burned. Secondary fires from flaming debris set fields alight. What began as targeted ignition became a rolling inferno across the corridor. Damage assessments tallied the cost, roughly 400 meters of track structurally compromised, signaling cables melted, and base concrete foundation integrity reduced by an estimated 12% from thermal shock. Tensile strength of rail steel, normally rated 540-620 MPa, fell by an estimated 40% under peak heat, forcing full replacement of affected rails. Repair windows stretched. Initial estimates put full service restoration at 4 days for signaling. But operationally, the line remained closed for 6 days, while deeper foundation work and rail replacement proceeded. Operational ripple effects were stark. The destroyed 150 tons of fuel equated to 3 to 5 days of fuel for a mechanized division. 6 wagons of JP-8 represented dozens of potential helicopter sorties lost. Armored movements slowed, artillery resupply delayed, scheduled air missions canceled. Road convoys could only meet roughly 17% of daily throughput, leaving units in the north of Crimea critically short. A single fire throttled an entire campaign's tempo. The economics were brutal. 7 Malok V2 loitering munitions, procurement and prep costs estimated at $266,000 total, versus cargo valued at about $2.5 million. But the real metric was operational. Delays measured in days, sorties cancelled, battalions stalled. Small kit, enormous strategic leverage. Moscow scrambled. Emergency military councils convened within 12 hours. Orders flew for 17 new radar outposts along the corridor, coupled with rapid hardening plans for rolling stock and crude retrofits for tanker armor. But defenses of that scale take months and millions. Meanwhile, attempts to reroute supplies by road created long staging queues, made convoys vulnerable to further interdiction, and stretched repair crews thin. Patching one hole exposed others. On the ground, the human cost emerged. Rail crews displaced for days, villagers inhaling smoke, firefighting teams exhausted by toxic plumes. Logistics is not abstract, it's lived. When rails break, families lose livelihoods, and medical evacuations slow. The strike's physical numbers, 3 hours of burning, 6 secondary blazes, dozens of destroyed wagons, translate into real hardship for civilians and soldiers alike. The lesson is tactical and doctrinal. Logistics are the soft underbelly now. Solutions include distributed supply nodes, hardened tankers with blast-mitigating baffles, rapid rail bypass engineering, and expanded air resupply capability, each carrying steep time and budget costs. Attackers counter with cheaper ingenuity. Smaller loitering munitions, layered SIGINT, and cheap decoys. The offense keeps finding cheaper ways to break the defender's math. Skeptics point to favorable weather, perfect timing, and fragile infrastructure as luck factors. Chance played a role, but it cannot explain a 6-day shutdown, 312 to 400 meters of track ruined, and a domino of operational paralysis. This was design. Layered intelligence, a tailored strike package, and ruthless focus on the weakest link. This was never just the burning of a train. It was the burning of assumptions, that supply lines are secure, that rails are invulnerable, that drones are toys. 7 Malik V2s, a TE-33A hauled convoy, 150 tons of fuel. Small tools, massive consequences. The echo will shape doctrine and defenses for years to come.